My name is Maria Stauffer, 29 years old. On September 16th, 2025, at Barcelona El Prat Airport, my parents left my 78-year-old grandfather at the departure terminal with no passport, no cash, and no phone. I was 17 feet away when I heard my mother whisper to my father, "If he never makes it back, the house defaults to family." My father nodded. "We handle the rest." They didn't know that 4 months earlier I had helped Grandpa update his will. They didn't know about the beneficiary deed we filed with Boulder County. They didn't know I work in elder law. 2 days later, my father used his spare key to unlock Grandpa's front door in Denver. He froze. Grandpa was sitting in his armchair. I was standing in the kitchen. I smiled. "Welcome back, Dad. We need to talk about that house you mentioned." Before I go on, like and subscribe, but only if this story speaks to you. And tell me where you're watching from. Now let me take you back. Because this didn't start at that airport. It started months earlier. February 8th, 2025. My grandmother died. Grandpa Vincent was 78 years old, and he'd just lost the woman he'd been married to for 53 years. The funeral was February 12th. I remember standing in the cemetery, watching him stare at the casket like he was trying to memorize it. My father stood beside him, one hand on Grandpa's shoulder. It looked like comfort. But I noticed my father kept checking his phone. The house at 1520 Ivy Street in East Austin is a craftsman-style home. 3 bedrooms, 2,400 square feet. Grandpa bought it in 1983 for $62,000. A recent appraisal put it at $850,000. The neighborhood gentrified. Property values tripled in 5 years. After Grandma's funeral, I started visiting every Sunday. Grandpa would make coffee. We'd sit at his kitchen table. He'd gotten thinner, quieter. The house felt too big for one person. My parents visited too, but less often. And when they did, the questions were always the same. February 20th. I was there when my mother said it. "Dad, this house is too much for one person. Have you thought about, you know, making things simpler? We just want what's best." Grandpa looked at her. He said, "I'm fine here." My father added, "We're just saying, long-term planning. It's something to think about." I didn't say anything, but I noticed how often they mentioned the house. How rarely they asked how Grandpa was sleeping, whether he was eating, whether he missed Grandma so much some mornings he couldn't get out of bed. That night, I went home and checked public records online. Someone had requested a property value estimate for 1520 Ivy Street. The request came from an email I recognized, my father's. I started keeping a timeline. Every conversation, every visit they made to his house when he wasn't home. July 18th, 2025. Grandpa called me. He sounded confused. A real estate agent named Jillian Ross from RE Max had knocked on his door. She'd said someone in the family thought he might be interested in senior living options. Grandpa told her he'd never said that to anyone. July 29th. Another agent. Todd Brennan, Coldwell Banker, same story. "Someone in your family mentioned you might want to sell." I work at Morrison and Klein Law offices in Denver. I'm a paralegal specializing in estate planning and elder law. My supervising attorney is Ann Morrison. She's been practicing for 18 years. On August 2nd, I sat in her office and told her what I'd been seeing. Ann leaned back in her chair. She said, "Maria, if you're seeing this pattern, the inquiries, the sudden interest in his living situation, you document everything. And you make sure his wishes are ironclad before someone tries to rewrite them." I pitched it to Grandpa as a routine update. After Grandma passed, his estate documents needed reviewing. He agreed. We met with a notary named Claire DuPont on May 15th, 2025. We executed a new will, a beneficiary deed, a medical durable power of attorney, a financial power of attorney. The will was 23 pages. It named me as primary beneficiary for the real property at 1520 Ivy Street. My father, Grandpa's son, received a $5,000 cash bequest. That was it. The beneficiary deed was the nuclear option. In Colorado, a beneficiary deed allows real property to transfer directly to a named beneficiary upon the owner's death. It skips probate. It can't be contested as easily as a will. On May 22, 2025, we filed it with the Boulder County Clerk and Recorder. Reception number 2025-0089132. The house would go to me automatically. My father couldn't claim intestate succession, couldn't argue incompetence, couldn't file for emergency conservatorship and hope to win. Before we signed anything, I sent Grandpa to Dr. Patricia Valdez. She's a geriatric medicine specialist at Denver Health. On April 30th, she conducted a full cognitive assessment. Grandpa scored 29 out of 30 on the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, well above the threshold for competence. Dr. Valdez wrote in her notes, "Patient is fully oriented, demonstrates excellent memory, judgment, and decision-making capacity. No evidence of dementia or cognitive impairment." When I handed Grandpa the final binder of documents, he asked me, "Do you think I need all this?" I said, "I hope not, but if you do, it'll be ready." He squeezed my hand. He didn't ask why. On August 10th, my parents invited me and Grandpa to dinner at their house. They were unusually enthusiastic. My father said, "We've been thinking. Dad taught Greek classics at Denver South High School for 32 years. He spent his whole life teaching about Athens, Sparta, the Acropolis. And he's never seen Greece." My mother smiled. "We want to take him. A Mediterranean cruise. Athens, Santorini, Mykonos. It'll help him heal." Grandpa's eyes lit up. It was the first time I'd seen him smile since Grandma died. I couldn't say no without crushing him. But I didn't trust my parents, so I said, "I'll come too. But I'm paying my own way, and I'm booking my own cabin." The trip cost $18,600 total. My parents insisted on paying for themselves and Grandpa. The cruise was Royal Caribbean, a ship called Odyssey of the Seas. 14 days through the Greek islands, plus a 3-day extension in Barcelona. My parents booked adjoining cabins on Deck 8. I booked a cabin on Deck 10. Separate. I wanted distance. I wanted perspective. 3 weeks before departure, I installed a voice recorder app on my phone. I started keeping it in my pocket during every family gathering. On August 10th, during that dinner, I recorded 11 minutes and 22 seconds. My mother said, "We can't wait too long. Once he starts declining," my father interrupted, "he's not declining fast enough. We might need to encourage the process." "What does that mean?" "The trip. Greece. It'll be exhausting. He'll come back more confused. Then we can move." I saved the file. I backed it up to 3 separate cloud accounts. I made a note in my timeline. August 10th, 7:42 p.m. Parents discussing how to accelerate Grandpa's decline. September 2nd, 2025. We flew out of Denver International Airport. United Flight 1823 to Barcelona. Departure at 10:15 a.m. Grandpa was excited. He wore a blazer. He'd brought a leather notebook to write down everything he saw. My parents were solicitous, too solicitous. My father held Grandpa's boarding pass. For safety, he said. He held Grandpa's passport too. I sat in seat 31D. Separate. I watched. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Grandpa fell asleep. I saw my father reach into the seat pocket. He pulled out Grandpa's passport. He opened it. He photographed every page with his phone. He thought no one was watching. I took a photo of him doing it. Timestamp. September 2nd, 4:32 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. The cruise was 12 days. Athens on September 4th. We toured the Acropolis. Grandpa cried when he saw the Parthenon. He said, "I taught about this place for 32 years. I never thought I'd stand here." Santorini on September 6th. White buildings against blue water. Mykonos on September 8th. Grandpa bought a small ceramic statue of Athena. He said he'd put it on Grandma's side of the dresser. On the evening of September 8th, I was on deck 12. My parents were 20 feet away, standing at the rail. They didn't see me. I heard my mother say, "Once we're back, we move fast. The longer he's in that house alone, the more complicated it gets." I recorded it. 5 minutes, 11 seconds. On September 11th at dinner, my father reached across the table. He squeezed Grandpa's hand. He said, "Dad, you've been so strong this trip. Mom would be proud." Grandpa teared up. I watched my father's face. There was no warmth in his eyes, only calculation. September 15th. The cruise ended in Barcelona. We checked into Hotel Arts Barcelona. Grandpa was in room 1518. My parents were in 1520 adjoining. I was on a different floor, room 2206. That morning, my mother said, "Dad, you rest. You've earned it. We'll just do some quick shopping. You don't need to wear yourself out before the flight home." Grandpa said he'd take a nap. Our flight was scheduled for September 16th. Lufthansa to Munich, then United to Denver. At 2 in the morning, I couldn't sleep. I went down to the hotel lobby. I saw my father at the ATM. He withdrew €600. The next morning, that cash was gone. So was Grandpa's passport from the room safe. September 16th, 2025. Breakfast at the hotel restaurant. 6:15 a.m. My parents were cheerful, almost giddy. Grandpa was tired but ready to go home. He said, "I can't wait to sleep in my own bed. 2 weeks feels like a long time when you're my age." My father smiled. "You'll be home soon, Dad. Real soon." We took a taxi to Barcelona El Prat Airport, arrived at 7:25, Terminal 1, check-in area B. Our flight was at 9:30 a.m., boarding at 8:50, gate B16. At check-in, the agent asked for Grandpa's passport. My father said, "Oh, I have it right here." But when he reached into his jacket, he paused. He looked at my mother. She nodded. He said, "Actually, Dad, why don't you rest here for a minute? We'll get everything sorted." They led Grandpa to a bench near gate B14, bench number B-14-03. My father said, "Just sit tight, Dad. We'll be back in 10 minutes. Don't wander, okay?" Grandpa sat down, hands folded, trusting. I pretended to go to the restroom. Instead, I positioned myself 17 feet away. Pillar B-14-08. I pulled out my phone. I enabled timestamps on the recording. I waited. 7:35 a.m. My parents walked toward the check-in counters. Then they veered toward gate B16. They didn't look back, not once. Grandpa sat on that bench, waiting. I wanted to run to him, but I needed to know what they would do next. At 7:42 a.m. they stopped near gate B16, 40 feet from where Grandpa sat. I moved closer, 12 feet away, partially hidden by a departure board pillar. My mother's voice was low, but I heard it clearly. "If he never makes it back, the house defaults to family, intestate succession." My father: "We handle the rest. One call to a probate attorney, file for missing person after 72 hours, get him declared presumed dead after 7 years, or sooner if we can show abandonment." What about Maria? She doesn't know estate law like we think she does. She's a paralegal, not a lawyer. By the time she figures it out, the house is ours. I felt my hands shaking. I kept the phone steady. I recorded every word. 2 minutes, 14 seconds. Then I watched them board the flight. They walked past security. They walked past Grandpa's bench. They didn't stop. They didn't even glance at him. 8:10 a.m. They were gone. 8:25. Grandpa stood up. He walked to the gate B16 counter. I watched from a distance. He asked about his family. The gate agent, her name tag said Cristina Vidal, checked the manifest. She said, "Sir, your family already boarded. Do you have your boarding pass?" Grandpa patted his pockets. Empty. He checked his jacket. Nothing. "My son, he had my passport. He said he'd be back." Christina looked sympathetic. "Sir, without a boarding pass or passport, I can't let you through. Do you have any ID?" Grandpa turned around slowly. He scanned the terminal. He was looking for them. For me. For anyone. I stepped out from behind the pillar. He saw me. His face went from confusion to relief to shame, like he thought he'd done something wrong. I walked over. I took his hand. He said, "I don't understand. Where did they go?" I said, "They left, Grandpa. But I'm here, and I'm not leaving you." He started shaking, not from cold, from the shock of realization. Did I miss something? Did I do something wrong? No, Grandpa. You didn't do anything wrong. But I need you to trust me now. Can you do that? He nodded. I guided him to a quieter seating area near gate B12. I opened my notes app on my phone. I typed, September 16th, 2025, 8:30 a.m. Barcelona time. Vincent Stauffer, age 78, abandoned at BCN Terminal 1 by son and daughter-in-law. No passport, no cash, no phone. Witnessed, recorded. Starting rescue protocol. Stevens. At 8:45 a.m. Barcelona time, 12:45 a.m. Denver time, I called the U.S. Consulate General Barcelona emergency line. The number is +34 9328022227. An officer named Brandon Ellis picked up. I kept my voice calm, professional. My grandfather is 78 years old. He has hypertension requiring daily medication. He's been separated from his passport and all funds at Barcelona El Prat Airport. I'm with him now. He's a U.S. citizen. We need emergency passport services and immediate assistance. Brandon Ellis didn't ask unnecessary questions. He said, "This isn't the first time we've seen something like this. Get him somewhere safe. File a police report for the lost passport. We'll have an appointment for you today at 2 p.m. Bring the police report, passport photos, and proof of citizenship. We can have him on his way home in 48 hours. Maybe less if everything goes smooth." Case number BCN-EMG-2025-0916-VTS. Next, I called Ann Morrison. It was 12:58 a.m. in Denver. She picked up on the second ring. I apologized for the late call. Then I told her everything. The abandonment, the whisper, the recording. Anne was silent for 3 seconds. Then she said, "Maria, listen to me. This is elder abandonment, with intent to defraud. You have the recording. You have timestamps. You have witnesses. Keep him safe, get him home, and do not communicate with your parents until I tell you it's safe. Do you understand?" "Yes. One more thing. Don't tell your parents you have him. Let them think he's still missing. I want to see what they do next." I said, "You want to give them rope?" She said, "I want to give them enough to hang themselves." At 9:35 a.m., I found the airport PRM desk. Persons with reduced mobility. An officer named Carla Mendoza helped us. She was kind. She called the Mossos d'Esquadra, the Catalan police. They arrived at 10:20. We filed a report for lost passport. Report number BCN-2025-091623. An airport paramedic named Jorge Alvarez checked Grandpa's blood pressure. 152/94. Elevated but stable. He gave Grandpa water. He told him to rest. Carla arranged temporary accommodation through the U.S. Consulate Emergency Assistance Fund, Ibis Barcelona Aeropuerto, room 305. When the police officer asked Grandpa, "Where is your family now?" Grandpa looked at me. He said, "She's right here." And the officer wrote that down. At 2 p.m., we went to the U.S. Consulate, Paseo Reina Elisenda de Montcada 23. Brandon Ellis met with us personally. We filled out Form DS-64 for a lost passport, Form DS-11 for a new passport application. We submitted the police report. Proof of citizenship. I had a scanned copy of Grandpa's birth certificate on my phone. 2 passport photos taken at the consulate. The expedited processing fee is normally $135. Brandon waived it under emergency assistance protocols. He shook Grandpa's hand. "Mr. Stauffer, I'm going to make sure you get home. It's not right what happened to you, but you're going to be okay. Pickup scheduled for September 17th, 5 p.m. As we left the consulate, my phone buzzed. Text from my mother. Maria, where are you? Your grandfather missed the flight. We're very worried. Please call us so we can figure out next steps. I showed Grandpa. He said, "What do I say?" I said, "Nothing. Not yet." I rebooked our flights using my credit card, Vueling to Paris on September 18th, then United to Denver. Total cost, $1,823. Hotel for 2 nights at the Ibis, €340. Grandpa needed his medication. I contacted his pharmacy in Denver. Dr. Valdez sent an emergency prescription to Farmacia Internacional Barcelona. We picked it up on September 17th at 10 a.m. That afternoon at 11:30 Barcelona time, I got another text from my mother. "We've contacted authorities. Your grandfather is a missing person. If you know anything, you need to tell us immediately." I screenshot it. I added it to my file. I didn't reply. Instead, I checked. U.S. Consulate. No missing person report filed. Denver Police. Nothing. State Department. Nothing. My mother was lying. I sent everything to Ann Morrison. 23 photos. 2 audio recordings, total 16 minutes 47 seconds. The police report. The consulate case file. A 4-page timeline document. September 17th, 5 p.m. We picked up Grandpa's emergency passport. Brandon Ellis handed it over personally. "Safe travels, sir." That night, Grandpa and I had dinner at the hotel restaurant. 7:45 p.m. We sat in a corner booth. He finally asked the question, "Did they plan this?" "Yes." "The house?" "Yes." Silence. Then, "What do we do now?" "We go home, and we make sure they can't do this to anyone else." Later, in his room, Grandpa couldn't sleep. I heard him through the adjoining door. At 2 a.m., I knocked. He let me in. We sat in silence for an hour, then he said, "When we get home, I need you to show me all the paperwork we did. I need to understand what we're protecting." I said, "Your life, Grandpa. We're protecting your life." September 18th, 2025. We left Barcelona at 10:15 a.m., Vueling flight to Paris, layover, then United to Denver. 10 hours in the air. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Grandpa said, "What if they're at the house when we get there?" "Then we deal with it, together. You're not alone anymore, Grandpa. You're never going to be alone in this again." We landed in Denver at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I turned on my phone. 17 missed calls from my mother. 9 from my father. 12 text messages. I didn't read them. I called Anne. She said, "They're at his house right now. How fast can you get there?" I looked at Grandpa. 25 minutes. While we were in Barcelona, my parents had been busy. September 16th, 4:35 p.m. They landed in Denver. First text to me. 5:02 p.m. I didn't answer. 5:40 p.m. They went directly to Grandpa's house. I know because the Nest doorbell camera recorded them. They tried the smart lock. 6 failed attempts. They didn't know I'd updated all the codes in May. Then my father used his spare key. Physical deadbolt. It still worked. They went inside, straight to Grandpa's study. The indoor camera caught everything. My father opened the file cabinet. He was looking for the will. He found the old one from March 15th, 2019, the one that split everything equally between him and Grandpa's late sister's estate. He photographed all 9 pages. My mother called a probate attorney named Philip Hutchins, 6:28 p.m. "Philip, hypothetical question. If an elderly person goes missing abroad, how long before we can file for presumed death?" 14-minute call, all recorded. At 7:15 p.m., my mother said to my father, "We need to establish he's not competent to manage his affairs. Get medical records. Find something we can use." My father said, "I'll call Dr. Valdez tomorrow. See what she'll say about his decline." They had no idea Dr. Valdez had already certified Grandpa fully competent in April. and that in August, when my father called fishing for an incompetence diagnosis, she'd noted it in Grandpa's file and called Ann Morrison. September 17th, 10 a.m. They met with Jillian Ross, the realtor at Stella's Coffee House, 2 blocks from Grandpa's house. A neighbor of Grandpa's, Mrs. Catherine Sullivan, Kate, 71 years old, retired teacher, sat nearby. I'd asked her to record the conversation if she saw them meet with anyone. She did. 28 minutes. Jillian provided a comparative market analysis. $850,000. 14 days average time on market. She said, if he's declared incompetent, or if the worst happens, you'll want to move quickly. The market is strong now. My father said, have you spoken to Maria about this? I know she's close to her grandfather. Jillian hesitated. Then my father added, Maria is emotional. She doesn't understand the practical realities. We'll handle her. Something shifted in Jillian's face, but she said, okay, let me know when you're ready to proceed. September 18th, 2:15 p.m. They came back to the house, this time with a locksmith, Fast Key Denver, a man named Shaw, invoice number FKD-2025-3891. The Nest camera recorded it. Brandon asked, just to confirm, this is your father's house and you have his permission to change the locks? My father lied. He's not available right now, but yes, it's family property. We're listed on the deed. He wasn't listed. The beneficiary deed filed in May named me. Only me. Brandon changed the deadbolts. Front door, back door, $385, paid in cash. My father smiled when he got the new keys. He said to my mother, now we control who gets in. At 3:05 p.m., they left. At 3:42 p.m., our flight from Paris landed. At 6:05 p.m., I pulled into the driveway at 1520 Ivy Street. I helped Grandpa out of the car. He looked at his house. He started crying quietly. I said, this is your home, Grandpa. It's always been your home, and it always will be. I used the smart lock app on my phone. Schlagen code. My father didn't know I controlled it. The lock clicked open. We went inside. Everything was exactly how Grandpa had left it 17 days earlier. He walked to his leather armchair in the living room, the one facing the front door, his reading chair. He sat down. I stood in the kitchen doorway, 12 feet from the front entrance, clear sightline. I checked the Nest app. 3 people approaching the porch, father, mother, Jillian Ross. I said, they're here. Grandpa straightened his back. I know. Are you ready? Yes. 6:08 p.m. I heard the key in the lock. The deadbolt turned. The door swung open. My father stepped inside. My mother behind him. Jillian hesitant at the threshold. My father looked up. He froze. Grandpa was sitting in his chair, calm, looking directly at him. I was in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, silence. 5 seconds. Then my father said, what? How? Grandpa said, hello, son. Nobody moved. 7 seconds of complete stillness. My mother's voice, barely a whisper. Dad? But you were... We thought... She stopped. She looked at me. Understanding hit her face. Maria, what did you do? I stepped forward, calm, level voice. I got him home. That's what you do when family gets left behind. My father tried to recover. We didn't leave him. He missed the flight. We tried to find him. I said, you left him at gate B16 with no passport, no cash, no phone. I have witnesses. I have recordings. I have timestamps. Would you like to hear them? My father's face went red. This is insane. We were looking for him. We filed a missing person. No, you didn't. I checked with Barcelona police, Denver PD, and the State Department. No missing person report exists. You want to try again? Jillian Ross backed toward the door. I think I should go, my father said. No, Jillian, this is just a misunderstanding. Jillian cut him off. I don't do family disputes. I'm sorry. She left. The door closed behind her. Now it was just the four of us. My mother tried a different approach. Her voice softened. Maria, we're glad he's safe, but you have to understand, he can't manage this house alone anymore. We were trying to help. I cut her off. I heard what you said at the airport. If he never makes it back, the house defaults to family. Want me to play it? My mother went pale. You were there? 17 feet away. I heard everything. My father stepped forward, aggressive now. You can't record people without permission. That's illegal. Spain is a one-party consent jurisdiction for public spaces. An airport departure terminal qualifies. And even if it wasn't admissible in court, which it is, it's admissible to Adult Protective Services. Want to keep talking? Grandpa stood up, slowly. He walked toward them, stopped 3 feet away. He said, You left me in another country. You took my passport. You took my money. You were going to let me disappear so you could take my house. His voice didn't shake. I'm your father. My mother reached for him. Dad, please, you don't understand. He stepped back. I understand perfectly. I said, Here's what happens now. You leave this house. You don't come back. You don't contact Grandpa. You don't contact me. If you do, I file criminal elder abuse charges, financial exploitation, and fraud. I have enough evidence to bury you. My father's jaw clenched. You're making a huge mistake. We're family. No, Grandpa and I are family. You're just people who share his DNA. There's a difference. Now get out of his house. They left. My father slammed the door. We heard their car start. Pull away. Silence. Grandpa sat back down in his chair. He put his head in his hands. I thought he was crying, but when he looked up, he was smiling. We did it, he said. I said, Not yet, Grandpa, but we will. If you've ever been the only person who stood up for someone when everyone else walked away, comment, I've seen this. Now let me show you what protection actually looks like. At 6:43 p.m., Ann Morrison arrived. She brought a binder. 347 pages, indexed, tabbed. We sat at Grandpa's dining table. Grandpa at the head, me to his right, Ann to his left. Ann said, Vincent, what your son and daughter-in-law tried to do is called financial exploitation of an at-risk adult. In Colorado, it's a felony. But before we go down that road, let's show you what we've already locked down. She opened the binder to tab 1. She slid it across to Grandpa. This is your new will, dated May 15th, 2025. You remember signing this? Grandpa nodded. Good. Because according to this will, your house doesn't go to your son. It goes to Maria. Grandpa read slowly. Page 8, paragraph 4.3. Specific bequest to son, $5,000 cash. The house, to Maria. Anne said, They found your old will from 2019, the one that split everything equally. They probably think that's still valid. Grandpa looked up. Will they try to use it? They can try. It won't work, because of what's in tab 2. Tab 2, beneficiary deed. Anne explained. In Colorado, a beneficiary deed allows real property to transfer directly to a named beneficiary upon the owner's death. It skips probate. It can't be contested as easily as a will. You signed this deed on May 15th. We filed it with Boulder County on May 22nd. Reception number 2025-00-89132. She pointed to the filing stamp. Book 5847, page 231. The moment you pass, Vincent, this house belongs to Maria. Your son can't file for probate, can't claim intestate succession, can't argue the will is invalid. Because the house doesn't go through your estate at all, it transfers automatically. Grandpa said quietly, So even if they tried to say I wasn't competent when I made the will, the deed is already recorded. It's done. The only way to undo it is if you revoke it yourself, and I'm guessing you're not planning to do that. Grandpa looked at me. No, I'm not. Tab 3. Medical Durable Power of Attorney. Tab 4. Financial Power of Attorney. Both executed May 15, 2025. Both naming me as agent. Anne said, if they try to get guardianship or conservatorship, which I promise you they will, these documents stop them cold. You've already chosen your agent. It's Maria. A court won't override your clearly stated wishes unless they can prove she's harming you. And since she just flew to Spain and brought you home safely, Anne smiled. I don't think that argument will fly. Tab 5. Dr. Valdez's Cognitive Assessment. April 30th, 2025. Montreal Cognitive Assessment Score, 29 out of 30. Normal range is 26 to 30. Anne said, your son tried to fish for evidence of cognitive decline. He called Dr. Valdez in August, asked if you were confused or having memory issues. She shut him down. And then she called me because she thought it was suspicious. That's how I knew something was coming. Grandpa's hands shook as he read Dr. Valdez's notes. Patient independently manages finances, medications, household, drives safely, socially engaged. No concerns. He looked up. They were building a case. Anne nodded. Cognitive decline, can't manage affairs, needs conservator. But we built a better case first. You're competent. You made informed decisions. And we can prove it. Tab 6. Transcripts of 2 recorded conversations, August 10th and August 18th. Grandpa read the transcript from August 10th slowly. When he got to the part where my father said, he's not declining fast enough. We might need to encourage the process. Grandpa stopped. 3 seconds of silence. Then he said, they wanted to speed it up. Anne said, the trip to Greece. I believe that was part of their plan. Exhaust you. Make you seem confused. Then, Barcelona. Grandpa's voice was barely above a whisper. They said I wasn't declining fast enough. I reached across the table. I put my hand over his. I know. Tab 7. Barcelona Documentation. Police Report. BCN-2025-091623. U.S. Consulate Case File. BCN-EMG-2025-0916-VTS. Witness statements from Carla Mendoza, Cristina Vidal, Jorge Alvarez, Brandon Ellis. The audio recording from Gate B16. 2 minutes, 14 seconds. Transcript attached. Nest doorbell footage. September 16th through 18th. 4 hours, 23 minutes total. Anne said, this is abandonment with intent to defraud, elder abuse, financial exploitation, attempted theft. If we wanted to file criminal charges, we'd have enough to prosecute. But that's your choice, Vincent. Not theirs. Yours. Grandpa looked at the binder. 347 pages. Every lie, every calculation, every moment they thought no one was watching. What do we do with all this? Anne said. That depends on what you want. Justice, protection, or both. September 19th, 2025, 10 a.m. Anne Morrison personally delivered a cease and desist letter to my parents at their home. 2840 Claremont Street, 14.3 miles from Grandpa's house. Anne brought a law clerk named Jackson Hayes as witness. My father opened the door. Anne handed him the letter. 4 pages, Morrison and Klein letterhead. He read it. His face went from confused to angry. You can't do this. He's my father. I have a right. Anne cut him off. You have the right to remain silent. Because anything you say to me right now can and will be used in an Adult Protective Services investigation. Do you want to keep talking? My father didn't answer. Anne said, one more thing. I've notified every real estate agent in Denver County that this property is subject to legal dispute. If anyone tries to list it, they'll be named in our lawsuit. Jillian Ross has already withdrawn. I suggest you do the same. September 19th, 2:15 p.m. I filed a report with Adult Protective Services, Denver County Department of Human Services. A caseworker named Patricia Walsh was assigned. Case number APS-2025-DEN-8916. September 20th, 10 a.m. Patricia visited Grandpa's house. She interviewed him. She interviewed me. She reviewed the evidence binder. She asked Grandpa directly, "Mr. Stauffer, do you feel safe in your home now?" "Yes." "Do you want contact with your son or daughter-in-law?" "No." "If they showed up here, would you feel threatened?" "Yes." Patricia read the evidence for 45 minutes. When she finished, she closed the binder. She said, "In 11 years, I've never seen documentation this thorough. Usually we're chasing ghosts. This time, you've built a fortress." September 22nd, Anne filed a petition for a civil no-contact order. Denver County Court, case number 25-CV-33521. Hearing scheduled for September 30th. I also filed a police report. Denver Police Department, District 3. Detective Laura Mendez, Financial Crimes Unit. Report number 2025-092385. Potential charges: elder abuse under Colorado Revised Statutes 18-6.5-103, theft, criminal exploitation. Detective Mendez called me on September 23rd. She said, "Ms. Stauffer, cases like this, where the victim is elderly and the perpetrators are family, they're hard to prosecute because victims don't want to press charges. But you've done something smart. You've created a paper trail so thick that even if your grandfather changes his mind tomorrow, the evidence doesn't go away." No criminal charges filed yet, Grandpa's choice, but the report was on record. September 29th. The day before the hearing, I got a call from a lawyer named Richard Whitmore. He said, "I've been retained by your parents to contest the no-contact order." I said, "Good luck with that." He said, "I've reviewed the case file. I'm withdrawing. Tell your grandfather I'm sorry for what happened to him." He hung up. September 30th, 2025, 2 p.m., Denver County Court, Courtroom 4B, Judge Ramona Delgado presiding. My parents showed up without an attorney. Pro se. Grandpa, Ann, and I sat on the other side. The hearing lasted 35 minutes. Judge Delgado had reviewed the evidence binder in advance. My parents argued misunderstanding, family dispute. We were trying to help. Judge Delgado looked at them over her glasses. "You left him in a foreign country without identification or funds. That's not help, that's abandonment." She turned to Grandpa. "Mr. Stauffer, do you want contact with your son and daughter-in-law?" "No, Your Honor." "And you're making this decision freely, without pressure?" "Yes." "Then this court grants a 5-year civil no-contact order. Violation is contempt of court and may result in criminal penalties." As we left the courtroom, my father turned to me. He mouthed something. I couldn't hear it, but I read his lips. "This isn't over." I pulled out my phone. I texted Anne. "He just violated the order. He made contact." Anne replied, "Screenshot everything. We'll file contempt tomorrow if he tries again." October 3rd, I completed property security. New locks installed by Guardian Security Denver. Invoice GSD-2025-4982. Smart home system upgraded. Schlage encode, plus Ring doorbell, plus Simply Safe alarm system. I notified Wells Fargo, Grandpa's primary bank. Vanguard, his investment account. USAA, his insurance. I filed the power of attorney paperwork with each institution. No one else was authorized. Only me. I called First American Title. The title officer, Nancy Brennan, said, "Ms. Stauffer, I've placed a fraud alert on this property. If anyone tries to file a deed, refinance, or claim ownership, our system will reject it and notify you immediately. Your grandfather is protected." October 5th, Grandpa asked me to take a walk with him. We walked 3 blocks to Washington Park. He said, "I need to know something. If I hadn't woken up that morning in Barcelona, if I'd just stayed sleeping and they'd left without me noticing, would you have still come back for me?" I stopped walking. I looked at him. Grandpa, I had my bag packed before we even left Denver. I knew something was wrong. I was never going to let you go through that alone. October 15th, 2025. Patricia Walsh issued her final APS report. Finding: substantiated financial exploitation attempt and abandonment of at-risk adult by family members. Perpetrators: Michael Stauffer, Jennifer Stauffer. They were entered into the Colorado Elder Abuse Registry, entry number EA-2025-8916. It prevents them from working in elder care, healthcare with elderly patients, or financial services for the elderly. Patricia handed Grandpa a card. If you ever feel unsafe, you call this number, 24 hours a day. Someone will come. Grandpa put the card in his wallet. His hands didn't shake anymore. Between October and November, my parents made 3 attempts to circumvent the no-contact order. October 18th. They sent a concerned neighbor named Sandra Pierce to check on Grandpa. She exposed herself when she mentioned, "Your son asked me to check." I filed a contempt motion. It was dismissed with a judicial warning. October 29th. They tried to access Grandpa's medical records through a family emergency request. HIPAA violation. Dr. Valdez blocked it and reported it to Ann Morrison. November 5th. They hired a private investigator named Douglas Crane to surveil the property for safety concerns. Douglas reviewed the case file and forwarded to him. On November 8th, he withdrew and refunded their deposit. He sent Anne an email. I was hired to ensure elderly man's safety at 1520 Ivy Street. After reviewing the case file you forwarded, I understand I've been retained under false pretenses. I am withdrawing and refunding their deposit. What they're doing is elder abuse, not concern. I won't be part of it. November 12th. I got a text from an unknown number. You've destroyed this family. I hope you're proud. I forwarded it to Anne. She replied, "Save it. If we need to add harassment charges, we will." I deleted the text. I didn't tell Grandpa. Some things he didn't need to carry. By late November, Grandpa started rebuilding his life. We established a tradition. Sunday dinners, 6 p.m., sometimes at my apartment, sometimes at his house. We alternated. On November 18th, he rejoined the Denver Seniors Coalition. He started volunteering. Tutoring Latin to high school students, 3 students a week. His health was stable. Blood pressure 128/82, normal. Dr. Valdez said his emotional recovery was ongoing, but his resilience was remarkable. On December 1st, I helped him install raised garden beds in his backyard. Easier on his arthritis. He started growing tomatoes again, something he and Grandma used to do together. He had coffee with neighbors every Wednesday morning at 9, book club every other Thursday. On December 10th, Grandpa asked me if I'd help him write something. Of course. What? A letter to other grandparents, so they know what to watch for, so they know they don't have to face this alone. You want to tell your story? I want to make sure I'm the last one this happens to. We wrote it together. On December 18th, 2025, the Denver Post published it as an op-ed. Page A12. The byline read, "By Vincent S., as told to Maria S., names redacted for privacy." The title was, "When Your Children See You as an Obstacle." 850 words. In it, Grandpa wrote, "I never thought my own son would leave me in a foreign country with no way home. But he did, because he saw my house, not my life. He saw my death, not my dignity." If you're reading this and something feels wrong with how your family treats you, trust that feeling. Find someone who sees you as a person first. Because blood doesn't make family. Protection does. Within 48 hours, 240 people emailed the Denver Post. 17 reported similar situations. On January 15, 2026, the Denver Seniors Coalition announced a free elder law clinic. Morrison and Klein volunteered attorneys. The day the op-ed published, Ann Morrison called Grandpa. "Vincent, you just helped more people than you'll ever know." That afternoon, I got an email from an unknown sender. "You've made an enemy. This isn't over." I forwarded it to Detective Mendez. I didn't tell Grandpa. Some threats you document. Some threats you don't dignify. December 24th, 2025, Christmas Eve. I went to Grandpa's house at 6:30 p.m. There was a small Christmas tree in the window, 4 feet tall, Fraser fir, decorated with ornaments from Grandma's collection. It was the first tree he'd put up since she died. We had dinner at the dining room table, roast chicken, Grandpa's recipe from his childhood, mashed potatoes, green beans, apple pie that I'd baked. After dinner, Grandpa gave me a gift, a leather document folder, engraved, "To Maria, for keeping me safe." Grandpa, 2025. Inside were updated copies of all the estate documents, and a sealed letter. "To be opened only after I'm gone," he said. We sat in the living room, Grandpa in his chair, me on the couch. NPR played classical Christmas carols softly in the background. He said, "Do you ever wonder if you did the right thing?" "Every day." "Me too. But then I wake up in my own bed, and I know." We sat in silence. Outside, snow started falling. Inside, it was warm. People ask me, "Do you regret destroying your relationship with your parents?" And I say, I didn't destroy it. They did, in Barcelona. At 7:42 a.m. on September 16th, 2025, when they chose a house over a human being, I just made sure their choice had consequences. Grandpa is still living at 1520 Ivy Street. He's 78 years old. He tends his garden. He tutors students. He has coffee with neighbors. He's building a life after loss. My parents haven't contacted us since November 12th. The no-contact order is in effect until 2030. The APS investigation is closed, findings substantiated. The police report remains on file. The Colorado Elder Abuse Registry entry is permanent. The house is protected. The estate is locked down. Grandpa's wishes are documented and filed. And every Sunday at 6 p.m., we have dinner together. They thought blood gave them the right to his house. The paperwork and the truth said otherwise. And in the end, protection wasn't about laws or documents. It was about showing up at an airport, at a door, at a hearing, every single time. That's what family actually means. Send this to someone who's taking care of an aging parent or grandparent right now, because the right paperwork, at the right time, can save more than you think.